Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Surf and Sales podcast. I'm Scott Leese, and I'm here with my good friend, as usual, Richard Harris. And we are really excited today to talk to Alison Edgar, who is coming to us from the UK. And I believe she's in the town of Bath, which, shockingly enough, I have been to and enjoyed. So I've got good stories from there. Alison is a keynote and TEDx speaker. She's been a best-selling author. She runs her own business. Her bio is like, I was just telling her, it reads like an Encyclopedia Britannica, and she was twice voted one of UK's top 10 business advisors. So to you today, Alison. So thanks for coming on the show.
Oh no, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. We've obviously met through LinkedIn, and it's an honor for you to have me. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. So get us started here. I mean, how did you get your career going in sales? Were you an entrepreneurial child? Were you, selling lemonade as a kid or Girl Scout cookies and things like that? Or did you just fall into the profession like I did? Richard was kind of a salesman from the start, not me. So I'm curious how you got your start.
I think first of all was Avon. So I suppose we would now call that, multi-level marketing as it is now.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I used to, at 15, thought it was like a quick cash, and my mum used to sign the account, so I wasn't allowed at 15 to have my own account. And I'd just go around the neighbours with the Avon book, and they would order, and then all of a sudden this cash arrived, and it's like, whoa! But I think it was later on that I moved into proper sales, if you want to call it that. I'm dyslexic, so I left school at 16 because I struggled with academia, and I became a hotel receptionist. And it's interesting that I never ever wanted to work in sales. I thought that I would stay in hospitality, and I worked in Sydney for Radisson. I worked for Southern Suns in Cape Town. I spent a little bit of time in the States, and it was when I came back from traveling that I got a job for BT, so British Telecom as it was at that time. Opened one of their first call centres. I'm originally from Scotland, and we did DMDR, direct mail, direct response. So they would send out the mail shot, and it was my job to actually sort of selling. Again, I'm kind of showing my age, guys, but it was at the time where, when you talk to businesses, did they want a pager or a mobile phone? So it was like, and the mobile phones had the aerials and the flips and stuff. So, and they sent an incentive when they opened the call center for the first person to make a sale. And I was the first person out of 200 people to make a sale. So I discovered I was quite competitive at that stage. So I think having worked for BT, their sales training was phenomenal. And I think that started me on the journey of loving sales. And with my hospitality background, I genuinely believe when it's delivered correctly that sales and customer service is exactly the same thing. And I think that's been one of my it's the mission statement of the company, and one of the values that I stick by with everything that I do.
Yeah, that line that you just said about sales and customer service kind of being one and the same. Has your experience been of late that more people are starting to agree with you? I feel like the line between salesperson and marketer and customer success, customer service person are starting to blur. I think the roles are starting to kind of merge into one. I've never heard somebody say that, what you just said, that they're kind of one and the same. So were you maybe just really ahead of the game, and are you seeing companies come to your side a little quicker now?
Yeah. Oh, of course I was ahead of the game. I think one of the things which is interesting, so I also do customer service training, and like, shh, this is our secret. Don't tell anyone else in the whole world. But the slide packs are the same. The content is the same apart from two sections. And I kind of prove it at the end, and I talk about the Spice Girls, and like I bring up the two slide packs and I go, see, it's like the Spice Girls, two become one. So I think more people are. And again, it's interesting. I see there's a cultural, like in the UK, the sales it's a slightly softer model, and that without that customer service edge, people don't buy. So I think that sales has definitely evolved. But I think ultimately, you find out what the customer needs and then you match it. And if it doesn't match, you're not going to sell it anyway. But to me, I think that's what gives people confidence, especially to reach out to people, is to believe that they're delivering a service. And by not reaching out, you're actually doing people a disservice, because if you can solve their problem or help them, it's your duty to do that as a service provider.
When did you sort of realize that? Like, if you go back in your career and did you always know it from your sort of knocking on the door Avon moment as a kid? Or was there sort of this epiphany as you grew up in the business world and how to do these things that you were like, oh, wait a minute, there's really a very strong alignment here?
No, I think I realised from my hospitality background, because, as a front office manager, a rooms division manager, and food and beverage, you are providing that service. And I think, when I talk about I made the first sale in the call centre, some quarters I was 3,000% a target. And I think people thought because I was dyslexic and I struggle with reading and writing, I couldn't count, but I'm really hot as hell with numbers. And it was, yeah. And I think with that, I've always believed that people buy people and they buy people like them. But in hospitality, I had to learn to adapt. And in later years, I'm a DISC practitioner, so I get involved a lot with the psychology behind sales. And I think that's what made me really good. And what was interesting was, it's okay being good at sales, but when you set up a sales training company to teach other people to be good at sales, you have to know your stuff. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges, that even when I was writing the book and getting the methodology, that I was good at it, but how did I manage to teach other people? And there was a lot of unpicking. And that's where fundamentally, that's one of the unpicking, epiphanies, is like, oh my goodness, this is exactly the same. And I think, although I knew it subconsciously, I think I can now prove it. I literally can prove it.
How did you handle, the challenge that exists, right, for people with dyslexia, right? It often can put them in a either self-perceived or by the public, put you in this little bucket, right? And you clearly said, no, you're not doing that to me, right? Like, that's not going to happen. For other people, whether it's dyslexia or depression or anxiety or anything, what advice do you give to people who feel like they are sort of put in this bucket, right? How do you encourage that from your own experience?
So for me, again, I can look back now and I can remember school vividly. I can remember English class, and in English class, we used to have to read out a paragraph out loud. And because I really even now struggle to read, it made me, I can taste the bile of the nerves of how bad that feeling was. That's how vividly I can reflect. And I think for me, it reflects in starting work at 16 in hospitality, that straight away I knew that I had to find my superpower. I didn't realize that like academia was the kryptonite and dyslexia was the superpower. But I tell you what, I can create, and I think it really helps me in sales, because where people without dyslexia think quite linearly, they think, oh, this is what I do, this is how I do it. I can, and at the moment, especially, coming through looking at my business, when a lot of businesses are, closing down, a lot of businesses are struggling, I'm booming because I think about things completely differently. I can always find an angle in or a different direction. And that's my superpower. And I think, people that have got anxiety or depression, you look at that, people would see that as a negative. And again, I'm writing my second book at the moment, and I think there are ways to overcome that. But I think you've got to find your superpower. If you see your weaknesses as the kryptonite, then they're always going to be that. But if you can flip it round and go, you know what, I'm dyslexic and I'm proud. And I think one of the things that recently really made me even elevate the superpower higher was, before I put on my LinkedIn that I was a dyslexic author, if I would put out a phrase, and to me that looks like a normal sentence, I done Grammarly, it looks right, that's okay. And somebody said, well, I don't know why you're posting that. Are you stupid? You can't even write, or you can't even read, and I'd never want to work with you. And you can take that as a negative, but for me it's like, well, actually, that's the reason I can't do this is I'm really good at all these other things, which would be of benefit to you. So I think, highlighting the superpower is never a bad thing to do. And I think, one of my favorite girl crushes at the moment is Brene Brown, and she talks about obviously vulnerability and shame and things like that. And I think actually, it's okay, to be yourself. And I think the word authenticity is kind of overused, like it gets milked to bits, but it is okay to be yourself and really elevate your strengths.
I love that.
Yeah. What do you, just out of curiosity for you, because I do the same thing. I have depression and I use that as my superpower. What are the things that you think are your strengths, even though that was your challenge, right? Like you sort of said, hey, maybe this is one thing, but I can help you here. I want to give people a frame of reference to say, oh yeah, I can still be proud about this, even though I also have this as a part of me.
I think it's identifying the things in yourself. So like, what am I not great at? Well, do you know what? I'm not highly attention to detail, right? I would say that I'm big picture, I come up with great things, but I think I know that in myself. So I think it's always your self-awareness. So when I recruit, I've got a team of people that work for me. I don't work on my own, and I always fill the gaps. Sometimes, again, because I'm quite driven, quite focused, and I am empathetic, but sometimes I know that I can drop the empathy when things need to go at a pace. So I make sure that I've got people around me that actually kick my backside when I'm not doing things that I know that I should be right. So, I think it's knowing where your weaknesses are and saying it's okay to be weak in that area. If I can't do it, you can adapt, or you can do something so much, but surround yourself with people who are honest with you, who do, kick your ass when you need it. Like, it's really funny. So I'm married to like my husband, and as Scott said at the beginning, I've done some really cool stuff, right? I've been to Buckingham Palace as a thank you from the Queen. I work with the UK government. I go to 10 Downing Street. I write books. I do TV. I do big radio shows. And sometimes it'd be really easy for my head to be huge, right? And whenever it sort of gets slightly larger, my husband says, I don't think you've emptied the dishwasher yet, and there seems to be like a load of washing in the machine or whatever. And it's like, damn it, I'm right back down to earth. And I think it's keeping, never believe your own hype, but be fair to yourself, be honest with yourself, and draw the line. I think it's having as my granny would say, give yourself a good talking to. And then that's what helps you move on. Whether it's a good talking to bring you down or bring you up, it doesn't matter. It's having that even keel, I think, that really helps.
Yeah. Did public speaking come naturally to you, or was this something that you really had to work on? I'm really interested in all of the TED Talks and all these big kind of engagements that I see on your LinkedIn profile. I'd love to get into, some tips that you might have for people who are delivering trainings or talks to larger and larger audiences, right? I mean, Richard and I could use help in this particular area. I mean, we're always getting in front of large groups of people, and, hopefully we have some of those opportunities again here soon. So talk to people who are, maybe nervous about public speaking or getting into it for the first time. And was it natural for you, or did you have to work on it? And what worked to help you get so good at it?
So one of the biggest fears is a thing called glossophobia. So glossophobia is an actual fear of public speaking. So it wasn't anything that I really set out to happen. And I never, again, when I worked in sales, I wasn't doing sales management. I wasn't doing area management. I was like front row sales. I was cannon fodder every day. So I never really had to speak in front of large groups of people. And I can remember the first time I had to speak, it was my sister's surprise silver wedding. And I didn't want to use the cue cards because I think, again, that's a bit of a crutch. And if you're not confident in you, other people will not be confident in you. So I knew that was a huge thing that I had to learn. So again, I think that's a great thing for the listeners. But because I can't learn like normal people, I learn in pictures. So I had to, when I was going through my sister's and my brother-in-law's sort of story, I had to like think, well, they met at the college. And so then I had to have a picture of a college. And then they moved to South Africa. So then so I had to have the list in my head. But I think, again, another huge tip for the listeners is nobody knows what you're meant to say. So many people, you see them faffing around, go, oh, I wasn't meant to say that, or I wasn't meant to do that. Never do that, because nobody apart from you knows what you're meant to do. For me, I struggled with the TEDx because it was I had to do it in short notice. I didn't leave myself enough notice. And the content was fairly new. So I think that's another top tip. Know your content like the back of your hand. So for me now with my content, I'm really comfortable delivering it. So touch wood, you know, I have spoken for the Discovery Channel. I've spoken for Sky, Equifax. I was due to speak at the European Commission in Belgium on the 17th of March, which didn't happen for lockdown reasons. But I think it's just having, what's the purpose? You know, what do you want to get across to them? What do the audience want? Do they want, you know, what do they want to hear? Do they want tips? Do they want hints? Do they want inspiration? Because I think if you know what the audience want, it's sales. You deliver what the customer needs. You know, it's all about getting the event organizers to tell you what the need is for the audience, and then you deliver in. But I think the top tip is never let on you don't know. You just have to keep going, and nobody knows what you're meant to say apart from you. Breathing is huge. And to me, it's interesting because I worked with a business coach years ago, and she said, so what's your long-term goal? What's your plan? And I said, well, I'd really like to faff around being Alison Edgar, and people just pay me a load of money to do that. And she kind of laughed in my face. Right? She kind of went, ha ha ha. No, what do you really want? I said, I really want to faff around, be Alison Edgar, and people just pay me loads of money to do it. And she said, no, that's not going to happen. But actually, when I'm speaking, what I do is I work with some of the biggest organizations in the world. I turn up for an hour, I be Alison Edgar, and they pay me a load of money to do it. Boom! I'm hitting my goals.
Your business coach was wrong.
He was wrong. He was so wrong.
I want to circle back to something you said much earlier, which I find funny, and you know we'll dig into it a little bit. But you sort of alluded to the fact that in some ways in the UK people were a little more soft around their sales skills, right? And I'm curious, not necessarily about UK. I don't want to pick on people. What does soft mean to you, though, when you see that in anybody? Because look, I could say the same thing about it here, but you know, we can certainly reference how the USA took down UK in our sales challenge, and that resonates with us. But what did that mean for you when you said that? Because I want people to understand what soft and strong means in a positive way.
I mean, it's really interesting because I think, you know, if you look at the stereotypical US and UK culture, so there's that whole, I feel like I am Scottish, so I will put my Scotland card. We are maybe slightly different to English people, because, although I fit under the British flag. But a lot of the thing is they're quite polite, they're quite reserved. They don't like, and again, pushy, over exuberant. As a culture, they're quite a reserved culture, which I would say. But literally, I love the States, right? I feel like if anybody asks me, because I lived in California for a wee while, and I go, actually, I'm a California chick that was born in the wrong place, because I love all the stuff. You know, I love the States. I love the excitement. I love the whole, and I'm not saying everybody in the US is like Disney, but I love that. I love have a nice day, ma'am. And I love the fact that people, to me, that's genuine customer service, that they really, when they say have a nice day, they mean have a nice day. That's, to me, a good thing. Whereas in the UK, they sometimes would see that as being a bit false, a bit fake. You know, they want, you know, more touchy-feely. And again, I'll come back to the US versus the UK sales match. And like the US guys are like bash, bam, bam. But it was so fast. Like the answers were quick. to the point, you know, it's closing. It was like your old ABC, always be closing. And the UK guys were just a little bit more laid back, and you know, the answers were taking a bit longer to come out. And I think to me, it was a real good example of the different cultures, not just as salespeople, but how people like to be sold to. So again, like if you're selling in the States, you know, it is the whole, it's a bit pantomimey, you know, like always be closing, yeah, and you can get away with the quirky lines. Sometimes the quirky lines in the UK don't work because the purchasers are more reserved, and it comes back to that adaptation. And it was interesting to watch like as an observer of that match. I was just loving it from a psychology perspective. I was loving it as well.
So this actually leads to a great follow-up question is, as someone, you know, US born, US raised, how do we adapt better towards that UK market? If we're trying to sell into the UK or the European market, you've got your hands on the pulse of these different cultures in a different way than we do. So I heard you sort of say, you know, fewer of the one-liners and the quick whips of humor. What other advice would you give, you know, a sales team that's going to break into the UK about, here's what you need to understand culturally?
Well, that's an incredibly interesting question, Richard, because one of the things at the moment, I think another thing comes, you know, if you look at female salespeople and male salespeople, I think there's another nuance in there, and you've also got the generational salespeople. I spoke at an event, end of last year with Grant Cardone. So Grant Cardone and I were on the same lineup. And it was really interesting because a lot of the young boys, the young whips, you know, new to sales, they worship him and they worship Jordan Belfort. And it's like, you know, you've got two of the most,
arrogant jerks I've ever met in sales. I'll just say it. And I'm generational, so, you know, but I'm okay with saying it.
You're saying that and I'm not. But they love them. And again, this is where it's quite interesting, because if you look, Grant Cardone especially, you know, he brands himself as a sales trainer, and he's got his university, obviously, but it's all like from the start, from him and the picture book family arrive on the stage, you know, he's already pitching his upsell at the end. It's just everything's positioned NLP'd in for the upsell at the end. And it's really interesting because I don't necessarily think that's selling from the stage. That's a different genre of sales than if you were going to be working with a tech company in London who are in the SaaS field. I think that's a completely different sales technique, and I think that's not what Grant Cardone or Jordan Belfort do. They're going for the standalone sales guys that, you know, want to be the best that they can be, and they don't necessarily follow through in the techniques that they teach them. They sell them the dream. Really, they're selling the dream. And I don't, again, believe that's a customer service, because I think that's not a reality. I think a lot of the stuff is really understanding what the market want. And there are some sales trainers who do manage to come over from the US. If you look at Jim Cathcart, he's really well respected, and he does a good old proper job of training sales. So I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's, again, really understanding the market.
I want to go backwards a little bit and see if I get this Scottish phrase right of, you know, just faffing about. Is that the right phrase?
Yeah, I love my faffing around.
Okay. What advice do you have for people who want to just faff around and be themselves and get paid loads of money? And when did you realize that you needed to work on building your own brand? This is what this is like the thing right now, right? Like everybody talks about, you've got to build your own brand, and there's, you know, you could talk to 10 people and 10 people would tell you 10 different ways to do it correctly, right? Like there's people who are very scientific about it, and they're just like, these are the steps you need to take. This is what you need to do. And then there's, you know, other people like where it just seems to have happened and have no strategy, you know, kind of whatsoever. So what advice would you give people out there right now, you know, maybe sales leaders who are trying to take the next step to go where you are, or sales people who are already working on building their brand because they want to get paid loads of money to goof around and just be Scott, and just be Alison, and just be Richard?
I think that's a really interesting thing, because I think there's you can start to create your own brand whether you're employed or as an employee, or whether you run your own business. So for me, I liken it to, so we have Cadbury is our brand of chocolate. So like you've got Hershey, we've got Cadbury, and the main chocolate bar is Cadbury Dairy Milk, right? So they've grown Cadbury Dairy Milk as a brand. And I liken how I created Alison Edgar, the entrepreneur's godmother, to that. So first of all, you look at Cadbury Dairy Milk has got purple chocolate wrapper. So Richard was asking, do you like pink? Well, there's a story about pink. It's not that I don't like it, but I always wear it at work because, when you're in a room of people wearing black, why would you blend in when you can stand out? And that's how you create a personal brand, is by standing out no matter where you are.
That's why I never that's why I never shave and I wear a hat all the time, by the way. So I can stand out.
Think it is, whatever it is. So I will tell you why I wear pink, right? Because it is important. So I was going to Downing Street. So the very first time I was going to meet the Prime Minister's advisors, and it's customary that you take this photograph outside the black door at number 10. And I did the research, and again, everybody was wearing black. And I thought, if I'm getting to go to somewhere that most people don't go, I ain't wearing black. So I went to one of the department stores to get a coat that wasn't black. It was December, so it was cold. Anything unblack, and the only one they had was pink. So that's why the brand was chosen. It wasn't through liking the color. It was, I need to stand out. And I think if you look at the consistency, I mean, we were talking off air about posting on LinkedIn. So the message is always consistent. It's always got a sales message. It's always, got a powerful back end of why I'm posting it. It's not a sales message. And I just think it is that consistency, always showing up, on every medium. So I'm on every social media channel. If I go somewhere, I'm invited to speak at events. When the journey started, it was association to big events that I would speak at. So I spoke at the business show in London, and having that drive and that goal. So I knew I was going to speak there come hell or water high. Like my superpower, like dyslexicness, was going to make me connect and be on that stage. There was no ifs, no buts, no maybes. I'm going to do this. I didn't know the timing on it, but it was happening. And I think that's, I call it growing the bricks of your house. These foundations of growing your personal brand is putting a brick in. And the person who's the dream boy, the poster boy of having done this is Daniel Disney. And, you look at, he worked in a job, he created the daily sales, he was doing those memes every day. I mean, I think it does help that his name's Daniel Disney. I'm not taking it against him, but I think, the fact that name does stand out. So again, for me, I'm known as the entrepreneur's godmother. People know me as the godmother. It's a name that stands out. So I believe that it's possible to do. Dan Disney's a great example of somebody who did it in a job. I've obviously done it with my business, but it's hard work and tenacity and having a really good, strong plan of what you do with your brand, and being a good brand, being a brand that people want to be associated. It's no different to Apple or Microsoft, or, it's getting it right and being innovative. I think doing things differently. I've got online courses, I've got the book, I've got the new book coming out. You're always innovating with your product range so that you've got ways that people can get a hold of you.
That's good stuff.
That's really good. I have a question for you. You've mentioned a couple of times, I think I heard you say you met the Queen, right? And you've gone to 10 Downing. And those are high pressure situations, right? And I think what I want to translate it to is, at least here in the United States, our unemployment is crazy right now because of what's going on with COVID. And so I think a lot of people are going into the interviews they're having feeling like they're walking into 10 Downing, right? Feeling like they're going to meet the king or the queen. How do you handle that pressure? How did you calm yourself down to go, oh my God, this is so exciting. I hope I don't screw it up. And I think a lot of people feel that sometimes in certain situations. I'd love to hear your approach on that.
Oh, there is a story about this. So I didn't meet the Queen face to face. We were in the same environment. She invited me for the tea party, right? So we didn't, it's not like we were having a chat like this, but I did go inside Buckingham Palace through the gates where nobody really gets through the gates. And I think, again, it's really, I think, again, it's a bit like sales or anything you do. You're so used to just pedaling away that you don't really think, because you're moving on to the next thing. But on the way to Downing Street for the very first time, I was in the taxi, and it hit me. And I phoned my husband, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm going here. And he's like, well, you'll be fine. You'll rock it. You'll always rock it. So I go in, and you go through security, and it's a tiny little street. You know, it looks, I was expecting a bit like the White House, you know, the lawns, the space. No, it's really tiny. And I was doing a Christmas market. So the Prime Minister was there and the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and they put these little Christmas booths up, like chalet things. And we were outside, so we hadn't gone into number 10, we were outside in the street. And I said to the organizer, I really need to nip to the loo. And I was expecting a porter cabin, right? And I'm going, where are they? And she goes, no, you knock on the door at number 10 and they'll let you in. And I'm going, yeah, really, I don't know if I can wait much longer. I really need the loo. Can you let me know where I'm going? She went, you knock on the door and they'll let you in. And I'm like, oh God, I can't wait any longer. So you knock on the door at number 10. It's like literally random. And this man goes, welcome, madam. And you go in. And I think that's when it really hit me. You know, it's overwhelming. And to bring it back to interviews, and I think it's really, it's interesting at the moment, because in the UK we've got a lot of people on furlough, which means that they are still getting paid, but they don't have to go to work. And again, it's just elongating what's going to happen next. We know what's going to happen next. So I think it's are you being the best you? You know, have you, do you look good? Have you made the biggest effort with your appearance? Have you learned all the stuff that you need to know? You know, when they say, what have you done to develop yourself? Do you say, I've been on Grant Cardon's course? No, joking, Grant. But what have you done? Have you gone the extra mile to be the best candidate? And do you believe it? Because I think imposter syndrome is really high. Because I know when I was like in the loo at number 10, I was like, little old me. And again, I was starting to hyperventilate, thinking they're going to catch me out. They're going to know that I'm a fraud. I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I think it's somebody else. But you are the person. You are the best. And you should have no doubt in your mind, because if you go in there and you falter that you're not the best candidate for the job, you know what's going to happen. It's going to go to someone else. So be the best you, and show them you're the man or the lady for the job.
Can you tell everybody, for context, like what is your core business? What do you specialize in? We've talked about all these things that you're doing, but we haven't even touched on, like, what is your core business, right?
So
what if somebody is listening to this and is like, man, I really like Alison, but like I don't even know what the fuck she does. So how could I work with her? Talk to us about Yeah.
She faffs around and getting paid for it. Well, so I've got three strings to the bow. I carry 3 brands. So 3 websites, 3 brands. So the core business is sales coaching solutions. And that works with teams. So say that you've got I've just been working with a security company. They're actually US based, but they've got an arm in the UK, and it's wireless security. So what I would normally do in non-COVID situations, I'd travel to their office, I'd do a day on behaviours, I would do a day on sales strategy, and I'd do a day on coach the coach to look at their processes. So in theory, I'm a sales trainer, educator, strategist.
Okay.
But then there used to be funding in the UK. So the UK would then do half, the government would half pay, I would get full pay, the client would pay half, the government would pay half. So it was really good. It was a great revenue stream. But what happened was the government pulled the funding just like literally overnight. And I thought, hang on, the ones that need me most, I know who needs me the most. It's the startups, it's the micros, it's the young businesses. And they're the ones who have got no money. So how can I sustain my business and help the people who need me most? So that's when I wrote Secrets of Successful Sales. So that's the book that, and again, it was #1 in Canada, #1 in Australia, the UK. It didn't quite make #1 in the US, but we could rectify that because it's on special $2.99 on Kindle, so listeners could get it on Kindle for $2.99.
You're gonna have a resurgence in sales now.
Yeah, so I'm throwing it back in there. But that's where one of my clients makes gin, and he's the naughtiest boy that I've ever met in my life. We nearly got kicked out of New York. We went on a global mission to New York, and we nearly got he nearly got asked to leave. I was just with him. And I needed, again, coming back to your question about personal branding, Scott, I needed a name that wasn't just Alison Edgar. And I said, look, help me, you're creative. What can I, and he said, oh, it's easy. You're the entrepreneur's godmother. And I went, I am the entrepreneur's godmother. Then I Googled what godmother means, and it's a person of influence in someone's business or someone's life. Oh, I am the godmother. So that works with your startups, but that's more of a too many model. So it's got online courses, or I'll do webinars and people will pay to come on the webinar. And then you've got Alison Edgar that faffs around, speaks at big conferences and gets paid a load of money. So that's the three sort of revenue streams. But the core revenue really comes from me going in, face to face as it was, or again, with the company with the alarms at the moment. I've been doing that via Zoom, an hour a day via Zoom, 3 days a week for a month. So that's the core.
And your business is booming right now through all of this. We've been talking about this, Richard and I, with some people in our circles, because a lot of us, I've never been so busy. I can't even get some of my work done because I'm on calls and Zooms constantly, and knock on wood, hopefully it continues through all this. But I'm just curious, why do you think it is that there's such a need for your services, our services right now? Right.
Well, I think this is another cultural thing, because I believe that in the US and North America, sales is seen as a profession. It's actually, go sales, we're really proud, we're in it. Whereas in the UK, sales, it's dirty, it's sleazy, I hate sales. And because we've had quite a robust economy, oh my God, I don't have to sell. Everything just comes through marketing. It all comes through recommendation. Well, I tell you what, if you're not effing selling now, you ain't got no business. So to me, good sales trainers and good salespeople are as popular as hand sanitizer. So what hand sanitizer is to hygiene, good salespeople are to business. So it's our time to shine.
There's the title of our episode right there. Good sales trainers are just like good hygiene. And
see, I'm getting ready for the girls' challenge. I've got to get my answers out quick and to the point.
Those are beautiful. So yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Scott, do we have a date for the female version?
The women's event is May 20th, I believe, and the teams are set, and then there's been some promotions going around. Alison's done a pretty good job promoting the event. We need the rest of the ladies involved to get going, and we need some of the guys who participated in the first event to help out and share and get the word out. So it should be loads of fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Literally, like I was saying off air, that when I was watching it, like, it was so fast paced. My hand was in my hat. I was like, oh, and the UK were waffling on. I'm going, cut to the chase.
Well, if we have like a mixed doubles type event, then I'm drafting Alison onto my team, because she totally gets it already.
I totally agree.
I would love mixed doubles. Literally, I hope we win so that then we can do mixed doubles, because I would love it.
This has been a lot of fun, Alison, and super helpful and informative. Is there anything that we can do to help and support you? We always try to end the show with, offering to give something back, because we know your time is important and you've been gracious with it with us.
You know what? And I think this is part of growing a personal brand. That I am really honored. Like when somebody says, "Will you come on the podcast?" or "Will you do this?" I'm like, "Oh, yes, please." It's like, it feels a wee bit like Ed Sheeran, right? So Ed Sheeran used to play in his bedroom, he would cut his hands, he would play in the streets, and then all of a sudden somebody says, can you come and, you know, support my gig? And you just feel like, you know, it's amazing. And I take any opportunity, because I know that eventually I'll be playing Madison Square Garden and Wembley Arena. So I take every opportunity that I can to put my message out there. So the book is on special in the US, all in North America, for $2.99. It's called Secrets of Successful Sales. It has had amazing reviews. It's got 135 5-star reviews, and you know, people are loving it. All ages, male and female, are just really loving Secrets of Successful Sales. So if you want to share the link, that would be amazing.
Awesome. Well, like we said, we really enjoyed spending some time with you and getting to know you, and I'll be tuning in for sure on May 20th. And
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Allison. This has been a lot of fun. I walk out of here with like 5 things. Okay, I got to go do this, and I got to go do this. So thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. We really appreciate it.
You're right. And have I converted you to support Team UK now?
I'm going to support Team Alison. I'm going to support Team Alison.
There you go. Oh, what a political answer.
I'll take that.
So,
I can root for an
I think Team Allison's going to win it for them. She's already the MVP candidate, in my opinion.
She's just going to nudge everybody else out of the way and say, I got this. I got all the answers.
I'm like, hi, Daryl, just give me the mic. Boom!
All right, Allison, take care.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Allison. We
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much for allowing me to come on. Thank you.